Still on the same slide for you guys at home. We're still over here. Oh, no, we're not. We're right there. Not there. What if that gets recorded like that? Where'd that go? Yeah, we're still in the enforcement area talking about the ALJ. Remember, Civil Rights Act of 1866, federal court. States have their own local enforcement agencies. I told you again. In Indianapolis, we have the Indiana Department of Fair Housing. So if there's a fair housing issue, you can bring it up to them. One of the other things I want to touch on real quickly about enforcement is the threats or acts of violence. So the Fair Housing Act also protects the people that seek the benefit of the fair housing. It protects the owners and real estate professionals who encourage the enjoyment of the fair housing rights. What's that mean? What that means is if you have a client and they try and buy a house, and let's say the seller says, I'm not selling to you because you are blah, 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 blah nationality, all right? That's a violation of the Fair Housing Act. The fact is, you are an extension of that client. You actually have been violated as well and actually can bring case against that seller or landlord or adjoin the case if your client decides to do it. Anytime there's threats or coercion or intimidation is actually punishable by criminal action, all right? So if they say, you come around here again bringing that blah, 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 I'm going to shoot you guys. Dude, that's, first of all, that's a violent act, and that is punishable not only criminally, but is also punished under the Fair Housing Act, okay? So if anything like that, you need to report basically to the law enforcement for the criminal portion, and you can actually report that to HUD under the Fair Housing Act, okay? So what's this mean for you guys? Anyone that violates the law is serious, all right? They don't play around for this. This is your livelihood. This is how you make money, and your license could actually be in jeopardy of losing your license if you violate these rules. This isn't one of those things where, hey, I think he was unethical and he talked to my client, so let's get him sanctioned by the PLA. Dude, this is a federal offense, okay? They don't play around. You must make sure that you scrutinize your practices. Do things that you need to do. Now, the one problem that I'm going to tell you is this, and here's another issue that I kind of have a problem with, but I want you to see what I'm saying. This is an intent law, not effects law. So the effects test that's applied to regulatory agencies to determine whether individual has been discriminated or not. So it's not whether there was an intent. And we've all watched CSI or whatever, and they talk about criminal intent. He had criminal intent. There does not have to be intent, okay? If the effect was different or the effect felt different. Let me give you an example. Here's one that I'm not sure what the guy meant, and he gave me a plausible answer, but let me tell you how I first thought. Think back, and we're getting further from the time, so I hope everybody remembers Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt ran for Jamaica, was a sprinter in the Olympics. Was talking to a buddy of mine one day while the Olympics were going on, and he said to me, man, that guy is fast. He said, but of course, they're all fast. See? I can tell by the look on your face, you just thought what I thought. And I literally said to him, I'm like, David? Not you, David. Obviously, it's not him, so don't everybody look at him as another David. You know that, David, but it doesn't matter. What do you mean they? What do you mean they are all fast? And he said, sprinters. He said, all the sprinters are faster than I am. He said, so while we talked about Usain Bolt being fast, they're all fast. And I'm like, so you didn't mean anything else? And then he finally called on. He's like, no. I didn't mean that at all. That's a great example of his verbs or his verbiage didn't have an intent. There was no intent to be a racial comment. But if someone feels the effect of that being a racial comment, they could, in fact, have an issue with a fair housing. And it's hard to go in front of a judge and say, Your Honor, he doesn't feel offended, because there is no intent motive needed in this. It is an effects motive. There's an effects test that it's applied. If the guy feels offended, or let's say you don't equally have the same policies, and this is one that I'm getting into right now with safety that I'm dealing with when I'm teaching continuing ed. I keep telling them safety, one of the biggest articles about your safety program for your company is continuity. You've got to do it all the same every time, so that if something is out of the ordinary, that raises a red flag to someone in the office and go, hey, I've not seen Bob in a while because he never checked in after his showings, which we all do every time. All right? One of the things the NAR is recommending now or advocating is you meet a brand new client in your office, you take a copy of their driver's license so that you have it on file, so that when you go out with this brand new client that you've never met before, somebody knows who that was. I looked at their face, looked at their ID, we have a name, we have an address. Now, let's throw out the possibility that it's a forged for the moment, okay? You have an address, but continuity, you got to do it every time. And if you don't do it every time, you have a problem. But not only do you have a safety issue, but look at it this way. What happens if you do it to a gentleman of a black guy, and then right behind him comes another client that's a white male, and you don't do it for whatever reason? Oh, I feel safe, he was recommended to me, I recognize the name, yada, 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 and you make any reason in the world up that you want to not do it. Is there discrimination now, and could the black guy go, hey, wait a minute, you took my license and my picture, did you do it because I'm black? I feel offended. That's another issue. You want continuity. No, we do everybody. I even worked with my brother. Here's a copy of my brother's driver's license. So continuity in the safety program is big, but also because another reason is under the fair housing, you could be caught up in something where you have a different policy or procedure for somebody. You certainly don't want your boss to go, hey, we're going to collect IDs today for all our clients, but only if they're XYZ. Don't do the white guys. Dude, that's obviously a brazen example and would never happen that way. And you don't have to have an intent. So you may do one who just randomly happened to be the Burmese gentleman. The next guy, you are in a hurry to get to the showing at 4 o'clock. It's 5 to 4. The client came in late. You don't have time to do the process. You want to be the first one there at 4, so you say, okay, we'll bypass the process today and we'll catch it later. And then you go out and all of a sudden the Burmese guy goes, wait a minute. You took my license. You didn't take his. That's discrimination. All right? And you think, well, it had nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with something else. But he feels discriminated against. That's the problem. That's the effect. All right? So be careful with that. When it comes to diversity, I think we beat it to death when we dealt with up there. The world is becoming more diverse. You guys need to practice diversely. At least keep it in mind. And I don't mean you should go out and actively practice diversely. To me, that's almost as bad as anything else. You can't say, or you shouldn't say, wow, I've had 3 white clients in a row. I got to go out and find a minority just so that I can be diverse. No, that's also bad. What I'm saying is, if a minority comes to you, you should treat them equally, and then say, yeah, you know, I've had multiple clients, multiple nationalities, multiple races, multiple sexes, any of that, but you didn't actively seek them out, because to me that's almost as bad, right? You don't want to go out and go, stop. You don't want to go out and say something to the effect of what I just did. Wow, I've dealt with 3 white males in a row, which I'm a white male. I better go out and find X so that I can show my diversity. Da-da-da. That's as bad as anything else. All right? So cultural diversity, federal and state laws, keep them in mind. I know you guys have the 7 protected classes in your mind. Blockbusting and all the other prohibited practice. Steering's a big one. The appraising you shouldn't have an issue with. Redlining, be careful of that. All of those. And remember your enforcements. All right? Any questions? All right, does it for this section.